Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your host, U.S. Air Force veteran Donna Hoffmeyer, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as we'll bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your host, Donna Hoffmeyer.
Hey everyone, it's Donna, and it is another beautiful week at Beyond the Frontline. Ooh, I'm all tongue-tied today. Beyond the Frontline. And this week we are going to bring in an awesome resource. I love bringing in the nonprofits. When I find them, I usually will go stalk them and check out their social media and see what's going on, and usually try to get them on. But this time I lucked out and they came to me. So we have the developmental director of Heroes on the Water. Heroes on the Water. What a day. Heroes on the Water today. Laura Lindsey. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Donna. How are you?
Got a mouthful of something in me today. 'Cause I'm good. I'm good. And you guys are just up the road from us. Like you're up in Dallas, right? Is that like headquarters for you guys?
Yeah, that's where we started. Our founder actually lived in a suburb north of Dallas, and so we call Dallas headquarters, but the national organization really works virtually. And my joke is if you see or hear of a facility or a building that has, Heroes on the Water stuff in it, there's a kayak in there. Like we don't have one of those fancy offices. Like that's not how we roll. So
See, I hear you. Somebody asked me the other day, they're just like, so where are you based out of? Like, because I run a little nonprofit and I'm like, my bedroom.
right.
How's that for fancy? Or they'll ask.
Exactly.
They just laugh because I'm pretty low key with that too, right? Like, why put all that overhead and stress out over that when we got to focus on the mission? So
There you go.
nice. So tell me, so you're not a veteran, right? Am I correct
No,
when we
that
talked,
is
right?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, which I love. I love it when we find our non-veterans that kind of get in there and want to be a part of it because they kind of get it. I'm always intrigued. So kind of what's your story that brought you to Heroes in the Water?
Right. So about 10, 11 years ago, I was doing a speaking engagement. I had a small marketing company,
Mm.
digital marketing company, and I worked specifically with small businesses. And a lady walked up to me and she said, I have a client that I think you could do well with, and we'd like for you to come in and start writing some blogs. And I'm like, okay, sure, I can do that. And honestly, it just went from there. I mean, I ended up selling my little company and remaining, with Heroes on the Water as a client. And then after several years of them being a client, they hired me full time in 2020, which I guess could be good or bad timing, depending on your perspective.
Yeah.
And here I am all these years later as the development director. So it's just been a wonderful, wild ride. But for me, Donna, honestly, it had a lot to do with, in the beginning, it was just being able to give voice to the mission, right? Because it was writing the stories and they were really fascinating. But the more I learned and understood, the more passionate I became about what we're doing, because as a civilian, I didn't have any clue how things really worked. Like there's these things that we think versus the reality. And the more I learned about reality, the more I'm like, this is something everybody really needs to understand better. Because we just do, like, you get it, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let me ask that question. What do you see? We'll go a little sideways here and we'll talk about Heroes on the Water in a second. But
Yeah.
what do you see from a civilian perspective that people don't get?
Well, okay. So for one thing, and I'm going to speak strictly for myself, because I'm not going to say every single civilian
Yeah,
was
understood.
as clueless as I was. So, for example, I operated under the misguided perception that when you served in the military and you got out, however that happened, that the VA handled all of your insurance and took care of you. Like that was a deal. Well, it isn't. That's not how it works at all, right? Like not even
No.
close. And I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Right. This is fascinating. Like, because that's how I thought it should work. So, clueless me.
We do too.
Yeah. Right? Exactly. I didn't understand, and this comes from also working with first responders, because we also work with veterans, active duty military, and first responders. And so one of the other things that I've learned is differences between what I'm just going to call event trauma, right?
Mhm.
Like the trauma that you get from maybe an IED
Yeah.
situation versus cumulative
Yes.
post-traumatic stress. Okay, so that
Yes.
was another new concept for me. I had no idea, no concept. It makes sense when you stop and think about, you see things day in and day out. A lot of like our first responders do, and not to say military don't, but they're the ones that I really think about when I think about the cumulative piece of it. And as a firefighter or an ambulance driver or a any sort of law enforcement where you just don't see people at their best, let's face it, every
Yeah.
day in and day out. And you just absorb it a little bit at a time because we're human. And so, yeah, it was just things like that, like things that I just didn't think about, right? I didn't think about how difficult it could be day in and day out. I didn't think about how difficult it would be to transition from the military into civilian life, right? I like a lot. Now, this I do know because a lot of civilians, they're like, well, you're home and it's good and it's easy. And it's like, it
Mhm.
isn't easy and it's really hard. And you have a skill set that may or may not apply, which is why I think a lot of people transition out of the military and into law enforcement
Oh
work,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
And yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that when people do that, or they become realtors, which I haven't figured out that connection yet. That if anybody can tell me why y'all become realtors, let me know because I just think that one's fascinating.
It
I
is
get the law
interesting.
and
Yeah.
plus
Yeah, yeah, I see that a lot. And some finance people, like I've seen that too,
yes,
right? Yeah.
financial planning. Yes. So I do find those fascinating that some of the things we turn into. But it's interesting that you're picking up on like what do you ever see there's that meme and it'll be like on a certain profession and it's like what my friends think I do, what my mom thinks I do, what I think I do and what I do. It's
Hmm.
kind of like one of those like people have different perspectives and when you don't have lived experience, you can only make the best assumptions based on the information you have, right, that you're piecing together. And
Hmm.
and you can't infuse that energy, right? Because you're not living it. And so it's really hard to explain to people like, yeah, believe it or not, you don't have to deploy over and over to end up with struggles. Like I just got into a very intense discussion with somebody, happened to be a veteran, and the comment he made, which sent me like mentally like, woo, I had to take a breath. But he said, well, the problem with the disabilities, with the VA disabilities, we all know what the problem is. And I'm like, we do? What's that? And he's like, well, all these people are putting in fake claims. And I was like, oh, you didn't say that. And I said, well, there's the 1%, right? And I use that term as the 1%, right? Like not the actual data. Cause he kept saying, where do you get 1% from? And I'm like, it's a term, meaning the small amount of people that actually will take the time to go work the system. Like that's a very, very small number, right? And then he followed it with another comment about, well, like somebody's like, oh, well, I saw dead bodies. Somebody sees dead bodies and they're filing a claim, or they say they saw dead bodies. And I'm looking, and my eyeballs are huge at this point, and I'm like, what? And I was really trying to figure out that perspective, like where is this coming from? And my comment to that was like, well, why don't you head on over to that facility on the west side of San Antonio that has one of our veterans that works there that was in mortuary affairs and wrote a whole book on it because he just saw dead bodies too, right? You know? So the point of all that is like we have all levels of trauma. And some of it is, and I agree, like if we bean counted against our first responders, our and then even our dispatchers, the ones that I hear, they have to go through
Oh,
that and they don't even
yeah.
get to closure of seeing what happens, right?
Mm-mm.
When they go through that, and you want to bean count it, I'm going to tell you, first responders are going to end up with a lot more beans than the military side. In general, in the big picture, I mean, I'm sure somebody can argue with me, and I'm sure special forces can and all that, but I'm just saying in the big collective picture, they are seeing stuff day to day more often than we are, right? Over a whole career,
Yeah.
So, and we're always revering the veterans, which is great. I mean, God, I honor my veterans and everything, but we've got to equally honor these first responders. So that's one of the questions I asked you before we started this. Like, do you also do first responders? You're like, yes. I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because it's really important that they are dealing with trauma like we are dealing with trauma. And maybe we're doing it overseas for the most part. And they're doing it in Garrison, right? Doing it here. So it's great that you can see all that. And I'm sure you've learned a ton being in the nonprofit. Sure, there's a lot of like, whoas.
Yeah, there's plenty. And I learned something every single day. Like that's the other thing. I've been doing this for a while and there's no end to the circumstances that I've started to understand, and that, I'm fortunate that people will be transparent enough to explain to me, because you don't have to. For example, one of the guys, we have an ambassador team, and the ambassador team is available to come out and speak and do all sorts of things. And they are veterans and first responders who participate in our kayak fishing wellness program, and they go out and just talk about their own experience and what it means, because we felt like it was important to have people, inside that really could go out and explain to everybody how this worked. And he used the term popcorn language, and I'm like, I've never heard that. I don't know what that means. And he's like, yeah, people just walk up to you and say, thank you for your service. He's like, what am I supposed to say to that? And I'm like, oh, well, I will never say that to you. Right?
And it's crazy when you hear that, isn't it? Like people are like, what do you say when they say thank you? Like I purposely, when I was in the military, if I had to run to the grocery store after work, I'd be like, oh. And I'm sure the civilian audience is like, what the hell? Why do why are you offended by it? It's not offended by it. It's one, there's two parts from my perspective, for whatever it's worth. One, I'm trying to get to the grocery store to get food and get out. I'm tired. And I've probably peopled out by that point because I've probably had a whole day of whatever. And probably like no different than anybody else, right? I just happen to be in identifying clothes that people come up and say, thank you for your service, right? Two, and I'll relate this to something that I saw. So when I was in the military, I was in Germany when 9/11 happened, right?
Oh, wow.
Prior to that, the civilian sector, we were just there, right? Like there was it was just, there's the military kind of thing. And then after it was like, love America and waving the flags and all this stuff, right? And I remember coming back to the US, having come back on a mission or whatever I was doing. And I remember being annoyed by that. And I'm like, you're waving your flags down? Like, where have you been the whole time we've needed this or that or whatever, like all of a sudden everybody's like patriotic and we're over here doing the work, right? And then they're doing their feel good. So sometimes, and this is not always, but people, the veterans, service members wonder, like, when you're saying that, is that for you to feel good that you did something nice? Or is that you really mean that?
Right. And that's
I
fair.
I can hear the like uproar, but I mean, like, really, do you
It's
mean
fair.
that?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I get it. And it was something that I hadn't really done frequently until I started working here. And then I started really listening to them. And I'm like, I'm not going to say that unless there's a specific reason or example, right? Like, I'm not just going to start rolling up to everybody in our community. And it's not because I'm not grateful, because I am. Because
yeah.
one of the things I've learned is that I have a precious little bubble around me that was provided for me and continues to be provided for me by people who served in all these capacities. And I'm super blessed to have it. And I don't take it for granted. But that doesn't mean that every single veteran and first responder wants to hear from me. right?
Yeah.
Like it needs to mean something. And then the other thing, which I personally have never done, and I didn't realize was a thing until somebody said this, was it was a veteran and he said, I don't want to be thanked on the 4th of July. And I'm like, okay, good to know. He said, because that's our country's Independence Day, right? Like that's what we're celebrating and not something that I did. And I thought, okay, this is all of these. Exactly. I mean, you get it, Donna. Like
Yeah.
for
Like
me, every
Memorial
time,
Day. Don't
yeah,
thank us
but
on
also,
Memorial Day, please.
yes, thank you. And don't confuse Memorial Day with Veterans Day.
Veterans
And so,
Day. Right.
yes, I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I have to agree with you. I think there's a lot of people that do it. It's almost rote. And it's like, that's not actually doing anything, supporting anything. Like if you're going to do that, make it mean something for a reason,
Right. Like kind of
right?
have or somebody pointed this out to me just the other day and I went, oh, it didn't even hit me. This one was, they're like, we were talking and somebody's like, so when's first responder day? Right. Can you tell us?
Mhm.
Right. We know where Veteran Day is, right? When's First Responder Day? And then they went on and said, and what's hilarious when you go to a Veterans Day parade, who's in it? I'm like, law enforcement, first
Mhm.
responders, fire trucks.
Yeah.
They're in our
Yeah.
parade. And I'm like, oh, we got to do better with this. So yeah, you see kind of the nuances that, and you know what?
Mhm.
Most people are not going to say a word. They'll be like, "Hey, no problem." Like they won't say a word. They're not going to put it
Mhm.
in your face. They're not going to make you feel bad. Like it's not that. It's
Mm-mm.
just kind of the like did, was whose feel good was it? Just ask yourself that question when you go shake their hand. Are you making yourself
Mhm.
feel good? Is there some reason? I've had people come up and, find out I was a nurse, and they were like, oh, I love nurses because dunk, 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 dunk. Oh, got you. There was an
Mhm.
experience. The nurse helped them or helped their
Mhm.
mom or dad or something like that. Like I get it, like, okay, but yeah, in general. So, all right. So that kind of leads me into like, it's a little bit of a rabbit hole, but you're seeing the differences and you're seeing our challenges, right? So you're seeing our veterans and first responders come out. You're seeing our challenges that we're dealing with, right? And of course, we can all name them, PTSDs, TBIs, anxiety, depression. Those are all plus the physical ones, which lend to more mental health issues because anybody's been in chronic pain, that is by itself a huge toll on your mental health when all you can do is try to figure out how to move properly that you don't have screaming pain, right? So
Right.
you're seeing this and what is Heroes in the Water? Like, where do they come in on this? What is the whole mission on making an impact for these veterans and first responders?
We'll hear how Heroes on the Water is helping veterans and first responders heal through community, nature, and kayak fishing. Right after this short commercial break.
Looking for stories that truly matter to our military community? Discover V2M, the veteran magazine. Read online at v2mag.com.
Yeah, great question. So we have a wellness program and we utilize kayak fishing as our primary modality. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, our founder loved to fish and he found kayak fishing and thought it was amazing. Um, and so he took a group to BAMC and they bust some people out and you could tell the difference from the time they got there until they got off the water. Like you could see it and feel it. And it's like, I'm not sure what this is, but we've got something, right? That was 2007,
Mm,
2008. Um, and Jim, our founder, was like, we have to get these people off the couch.
mhm.
Like getting back and transitioning, especially after, especially after a sudden reason that your military service has ended, right? And I think there's a slight difference between, well, not, I think there's a bigger difference between
Mm.
transitioning on your own terms and it suddenly just, which is not way different than if I got fired, right? Like from my corporate job where I just had to leave the building with a box. Um, and so there was a lot of that going on at the time, and he wanted to provide them something that got them off the couch, helped them relax, and put them in a group where they could get that camaraderie back. That was really how it started. Well, now, all these years later, we're finishing up. This will be our 5th year of doing this study where we've learned about the efficacy of kayak fishing and how it really works and what it does and the residual impact that it has on our participants, and learned from listening that it's that community that they miss. It people, first responders heal first responders, veterans heal veterans. You've got, a group that gets it, been there, done that. You can talk about it. You don't have to talk about it, like all of those sorts of things. And it's outdoors. And so the healing power of being outdoors is huge, especially on the water in a sit on top, very stable kayak where you can paddle and, get some of that tension out. And for, especially on the therapeutic side, where we're working with recreational therapists on site at the VA or DOD or whichever facility that we're in, they, they're rehabbing from injuries. And so for them, a lot of times it's the first time they've gotten to do something on their own since their injury, right? So it's just this low key, easy way to really manage your stress and post-traumatic stress. Like they tell me that it, quiets the buzz in their head, and that the kayaking relaxes them, and that the fishing gives them a new mission, and then the community is just there for them. And it just has grown from there, which is why we have 58 chapters across the United States and 10 therapeutic programs now.
Wow. That gave me chills. That's really cool. That's awesome. I mean, there is but in between you and us, so you're in Dallas and I'm near San Antonio, and just in between us, closer to you guys, there's another nonprofit, Eagle Rest Reserve, and they teach fly fishing, but on the lake. So they bring a boat out. They do that, and one of their things that they do is they teach people how to tie flies, like how to do all that. Yeah. And the gentleman that speaks, him and I have just connected. He's such a good person. Jeff Gwynn's his name. And actually I've had him on here. And he was telling me he's worked with, he goes, you'll be shocked, like Parkinson's people. And I'm like, he goes, you would not think that they could tie a fly, with the shakes and all that. And he said, so the brain, like, you're doing this and you're basically, right side, left side brain kind of thing. And because of the focus and whatnot, he goes, you will watch them. Their families are just jaw dropped. He goes, that they'll be able to do it. And he's like, and then bringing them on the water, like when you bring people out on the water, he goes, for them, they do families, they have like a boat, and then they'll bring them out in this boat. And they'll let the kids come with them. And like the reason why we've done it is because it's sometimes, and it goes back to what you said about with the PTSD and quieting the mind, is like the first time that their family has seen them calm and back to their normal selves, right?
Yeah.
And
totally.
I'm like, wow. And how simple, right? How simple of a concept. You just go out, sit in a kayak,
do some fishing,
rhythmic.
You can fly fish.
Yeah, it's rhythmic with the rowing and the fishing, and then you have to have the physical ability, the balance, and sure, if you can't, you'd be flipped in the kayak, but it's they can do that. It's got all the parts to it. It's just
right,
and it's so simple, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we include families. We were one of the first veteran service organizations that included families in our program. So
that's awesome.
Because
That's really
we
awesome.
believe, everybody served, right? It's just a little bit different capacity, but it's not it's not an easy life. It's not an easy life to be married to a law enforcement first responder person, and it's not an easy life to be deployed. So it's just very different. And Jim was passionate about making sure that the families were included because it just made sense. And we see exactly what you're talking about. It's the first time that a dad and a son really talk, because you're not going to take your electronics out there on the kayak, right? You're not going to be gaming. It's for a lot of times it's caretakers and spouses that find the organization and bring them out the first time. And then they'll just be sitting there listening and going, it's the first time I've heard my husband laugh like that in years. right? I mean, we could sit here all day, Donna, and talk about stories and the impact and what it means. And like I said, the study, Operation Early Impact, is worth taking a look at. It's on the website. But for example, 95% of the participants said that it reduced their stress level. And not only is it reducing their stress level on the day, but it's reducing their stress level overall, right? So for days in the future after participating, they still feel calmer, which we did not know until we did this study, right? And so to us, that was amazing because that just tells you that it really works. And then the other thing that we do that's a little bit different is it's recurring. So if you wanted to go out with, one of the chapters in your area in May and then turn around and do it again in June and then turn around and do it again in July, that's totally fine. So ours are recurring events rather than,
That's awesome.
and there's nothing wrong with the events where you do them for a week or a long weekend, and they're super powerful. Like we're not saying that's not,
Right.
that's just how we do it. We have recurring events. And if they're a therapeutic program, then it's every week or every other week, depending on what the therapeutic rec therapist wants to see happen for that location.
It goes back to that cumulative, right? You're doing that, a little bit every time instead of like the retreats are good, but sometimes you don't have that time for a whole retreat, maybe it's a day here and there. But you said something I want to go back to, and it made me smile. So when I was in the military, I had a population, this Air Force Guard and Reserve. We took care of them. And when you said the spouses are the ones that find these things, I'm like, it's because the spouses also identify what's going on 9 times out of 10. Very rarely are you going to have a self-identifying veteran or first responder. It's not like they don't know, but they don't know, And so that self-awareness isn't there. And when it does come, it's usually in the form of the spouse going, yeah, no, the gun under your pillow is not normal. You didn't do that before. Or, yeah, you're picking the whiskey bottle up a lot more. Or you just blew up at the kids because they missed the garbage can. What's going on? Right? Like, so they're the ones. So when somebody comes and says, I think I have PTSD, I always ask the same question. I'm like, so who recognized it first? And I have yet to have them say, I did. Never. They're just like, oh, my wife, my husband, my kid,
Yeah.
And it's important to recognize that and honor that. The other part of that came in my head is the calm part. So I have this is years of what I did in the military and then what I do here, and I in the nonprofit and just in this whole world. I've kind of put this together in my head, and somebody could say, well, no kidding, but it didn't really connect for a while. But there's many veterans and first responders that have seen things that nobody should ever see, right? Ever. And then it was this gentleman that was coming out of the veteran treatment court I was talking to that made it all click in my head. And we were talking about his experience with therapy. And it was really colorful, worded. And he says, I went and saw a therapist. I'm like, how'd it go? And he's like, okay, so I have a nightmare. And then I go see my therapist, and the therapist wants me to tell her about the nightmare. And he looks at me and he's like, ma'am, he's like, do you want to tell somebody about your nightmare? And I'm like, not really. He's like, right. And so he's like, so I didn't go anymore. Like, I didn't want to do that anymore. Right. Then he says, then I went to group, and I was like, well, how did that go? And he said, not very good. There was a kid. So there was a young guy in there that had PTSD, but he'd only been in the military about a year or so. Something happened. He was struggling with it. But in this guy's mind, this veteran that's very, crusty, lived a lot of life veteran is like, what the hell? This, little weenie kid has PTSD, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, and then I choked him out. And I thought he meant figuratively. No, he meant physically. he reacted, right? He had this reaction, and he ended up choking him. Like he did, I
Oh
mean, he
my
didn't kill him,
gosh.
but yeah. And the funny part is we were talking about, I was talking about neurofeedback at the time with him. And I said, now imagine if you had had neurofeedback and you had calmed down your brain, and maybe you would have only, and I was using his language, like maybe you would only called him a fucktard. He's like, I think I did that too. No, it's like, okay. But
Wow.
yeah, so that made so much click in my brain. Like all these jigsaw puzzles found the place for me is that our veterans, first responders sometimes see stuff that is so rough, egregious, like bad. They can't talk about it. It can
Mm-mm.
re-traumatize them. And that's not me coming to that. That's actually noted and documented in the world. I mean, that's in the therapy world. They'll even say that. That's nothing new. But we don't emphasize that there's a lot of things that we can do to calm down the brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even if it isn't, and I'm not saying there's not a place for talk therapy. So I don't want all these therapists coming at me saying I'm downplaying, because I'm not. There is a place. But I don't think in many of these more significant cases that it should start there. I think it should start with some of the multiple modalities. So we do have things, neurofeedback, equine therapy, EMDR. Um, Boom, let's get outdoors on the
Yeah.
water. The fact that you guys did a study, and not only did you find they were calm, but it had the lasting effect is obviously you guys must have been like dumbfounded, like, whoa. Then imagine using that while they're doing other modalities like
Mm-hmm.
EMDR. Maybe they're able to do their therapy better because
Yeah.
they're in a calmer state, you know?
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I do think that we've got it a little bit backwards. And
Yeah,
I think there's a different way to approach it so that all of them are more effective. It should be a journey. It's a step. And that's the other thing I think that, and I noticed this across all worlds. It doesn't really matter what's going on. There are people who they don't recognize that any sort of traumatic event is going to impact people individually. It's not a group event, right? Like you and I
right.
could be in exactly the same scenario and in the same situation, and it impact each of us very differently,
Correct.
right? Because we're different people. And so, back to your story, who cares that he was only there a year, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you've got to be able to recognize that not everyone reacts the same way.
Correct.
Um, which is why one of the other things, whether it's, us with our kayak fishing or equine therapy or some of the others, which are all, they're all really great, is it, it takes away some of the pressure of things like group and individual talk therapy. Because I'm with you, I think there's absolutely a place for that. And I think it's important.
Yeah.
But it also is important to find other things to help you in addition to, right? Like it's not just a one and done for everybody.
I said this one time. I was talking to one of the psychologists I know, and I said, you know, I feel like no matter what modality we're using, it doesn't matter. I don't care if we're doing talk therapy, EMDR, whatever it is, outdoors work, we all have the exact same goal. And he goes, what's that? And I'm like, to reduce that parasympathetic sympathetic response.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason why that guy didn't want to talk about his nightmare is for only one reason: how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
Because his brain does not know the difference between the past and the present. He doesn't know that brain does not know that memory is not real. To the brain, it's real, right? And so the brain was responding accordingly. And so, you hear these stories, and I've heard them 100,000 times. Somebody's like, yeah, I was driving down the road, this guy was being an asshole, and we were a stop car, stop sign, and I got out and I yelled at him. And you're looking at him like, that's not normal, right? Like, Why would you just get out of a car and start yelling at somebody? Their brain is like protective mode. There's a threat and we're going to neutralize it. You know what I mean? They're going in protective mode. And then the whole family's looking at them like, oh my God. Like, and they are not recognizing it because their brain's like, oh, no, 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 we're in protective mode right now. We're in survival mode. I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to protect whatever. And to varying levels, I've seen, you've seen that. I've seen people literally black out. We we had a service member one time, e emails me and the therapist and says, I got a Purple Heart for my uh for this injury. And so they were ambushed was the long and short of it. And one of his people, I think the lieutenant, was killed. He fell off the cliff and he survived, but he was really banged up. Anyways, so he sends pictures, and the therapist and I are just giggling. Now, I'm saying this is warped humor, so don't yell at me for having this thought. I mean, it was funny and it was not funny at the same time. He was dissociated. Like you could see in the picture. And I said, so what did you think of how did it go? And his words, I don't really remember a lot of it, but I think it was pretty good. He checked out, right? And so that event was so traumatic for his brain. His brain's like, yeah, we can't really be here because this is too much. And, there's varying levels of dissociation, but he just did the checkout. And you could see his eyes, like he was not home. And so I was like, oh no. And he's like, yeah, but I think it went pretty well. I'm like, well, great. That's awesome. So when we are fine, that's why I want every single nonprofit coming on here telling people what they're doing, because there's so many things to try. And the other part you're bringing is that community, right? So
That's
you're
huge.
you're going out with other people. The nice thing is it's kind of like the best way veterans, first responders like to be in a room, but don't have to engage a lot. So I can be
Right.
there with other people. We could have a little small talk, but then I can go sit on my boat, do some fishing and not have to talk. And that's beautiful, right?
Right.
So I said it, sometimes we are so, we make it more complicated than it has to be, and I'm like, in its simplicity. Like I just saw in the news, like the VA is getting like $5 billion for their structure or restructuring. And I was like, ooh, I can't wait to read the comments in this. And they didn't disappoint. And they're just like, why do you got to rebuild a house? Like they were going after the word, the structure. They're like, how about the programs? How about letting us have access? How about getting us in there? How about hiring the people that we need hired? That they assaulted that whole post. And I was like, oh boy. Yeah. Because they need the hand to hand. They need the warm handoff. They need the community, and they need what you guys offer, that warmth and that you're okay, Uh, there's a lot to be said for just that connection,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what we found, which is why it being recurring, I think, makes a difference. And then to your point, they describe it to you like you just leave it on the water. And if you don't ever want to say a word, that's fine. And if you want to get out there and talk it all out, that's fine too, because they've all been there. And so, each chapter kind of does their own thing based on the community and what they need. And yeah, it's really easy to go find a chapter. It's all on the website. There's a map there. The little blue dots are the volunteer program. You just find the one closest to you and email them and say, I want to participate. And that's it.
Oh,
And we
wow.
provide everything. So our our amazing donors and supporters make sure that each program has kayaks and rods and reels and PFDs and, pop-up tents and all of the things that you need to think of it kind of like going on a really cool picnic sort of family reunion event. Like you go out for a few hours, You show up, you do the thing, we gear you up. You don't have to worry about anything. You just bring yourself and your family member if you want to, and go out and fish and kayak for a few hours and come back and have some lunch and tell your fish story and go home.
Nice.
I mean,
You provide lunch too?
Yeah.
Or, you get lots of people there for that.
Yeah. Free food, right? Yes, exactly. Because we want it to be an amazing experience. And it's usually on a Saturday. Some of the chapters will take you out on an overnight, if that's the sort of thing that the community likes to do. So we do leave it kind of up to them. And the other thing, because we have amazing volunteers, if there are chapters that if you reach out to the chapter leadership and say, listen, I am really in need of just going out for a little bit, they will do one-on-ones with you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What do
So
you guys do if you see somebody that's struggling? Sometimes we'll have events and I can usually pick up do you have what happens in that case? Do you have a referral system or is it,
we
do.
We're a member of Combined Arms, for one, if
Okay.
you're familiar with them.
Yep.
And then again, each chapter is well immersed in their community. And so we will do everything that we can to help that person find the right or the best
Resource
way for them at that moment. Yeah, which is going to be different for everybody.
Have you had anybody that's you've had to kind of pull them aside, or has everybody just been really good to go?
Well, you know what? Honestly, for me, I don't know. I'm going to assume that that's probably happened, but it's not like we broadcast it, right? Like the volunteers are just going to handle it and do their thing. And so since I'm in the national headquarters, then they don't call me, Donna. How's that?
I'm not getting that call.
I'm not getting that call. But I know that the people that volunteer and do this work are super compassionate and are willing to do whatever it takes. It's, again, they've been there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So whatever the need is, they will make sure it's filled.
Do you have to be a veteran or first responder to fill that role, to volunteer in that role?
No.
Anybody?
We have a chapter in upstate New York that's the primary volunteers are teachers.
Nice.
Right? I know they're very organized.
I look at that jealously too.
Me too. So no, all sorts of people can volunteer, and we welcome that. Because we do kayak fishing, we're blessed to have a lot of people that come out that are kayak fishing, they're on pro staff and they do guides and they do all sorts of stuff. So
yeah.
So if you've never done it, we will buddy you up with somebody that's got some experience so that you feel comfortable and can do your thing. And
how big are the groups usually? I mean,
they vary. So for example, there's a group on coastal Texas that probably takes 20 to 40 people out regularly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's other groups that they're much more comfortable with 8 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So we really leave it up to the volunteer group and what the community needs. We don't say you have to take, because then it really kind of negates the wellness aspect of the program. We want it to be something that everyone feels like they get something out of it. So if that means it needs to be smaller, then we support that.
That's good, though. It's good to give that flexibility too. And I'm sure the chapters appreciate that. You get too many rules and boundaries that I think you do take away from it.
Yeah, well, it's not, yes, we want to serve as many people that want to participate in this. That's important for us, but it's not, we're not going to sit there and say every single chapter has to do X amount of, you know what I'm saying? The only thing that we do is we say we need for you to have 4 events a year so that you're fully serving your community.
Yeah.
And the reason that's the number is because upstate New York probably can only get 4 events a year on a kayak before they get,
snowed in.
Snowed in, yeah. Right.
And hard
Whereas in
to,
South Texas, they can do 10 to 12.
you
Like we
don't go
just,
ice fishing
yeah,
up there?
not yet. It's something that people keep talking about. I'm like, this is not my lane. I'll just support whatever you guys want to do.
You need
So,
people up there. Let me know. My family's from New Hampshire. I'm like, my cousin
okay.
goes ice fishing up there all the, I mean, the lakes are New Hampshire, Vermont, all that stuff. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
always like, have fun with that. Stay
Right.
down
Yeah.
here in
I don't,
Texas.
mm-mm, not my thing.
Cold's not my thing either. We had that cold snap and I was already like, 2 days, we're done. Let's warm up. Let's go. All right. So we can find you on heroesonthewater.org. That's your
Mhm.
online. Are you guys on social media too? Do you
Oh
have all
yeah.
that?
You can get all of
Oh,
that at
yeah.
the bottom in
I
the,
see it
and
right here.
yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, all of it. And LinkedIn, you're there as Laura Lindsey with a SEY. And
Hmm.
so they can reach out to you also.
Yes,
What
definitely.
are some last thoughts that you have on this as we wind it down?
I think the one thing I'd really like for everyone to walk away with is that this program is we're there for you. We've been around for a long time. We're not going anywhere. And at a time when it doesn't feel like anybody's getting any less stressed, just reach out, right? Reach out to anybody. There's a whole contact system on our website on the contact page, and there's a drop down, and you can reach out for whatever it is that you want or need. If you want to participate, we're there for you. If you want to volunteer, we'd love to have you come do that. If you want to support through a partnership or donate in some way, like let's talk about it, because this program has helped a lot of people in the years that we've been. Over 70,000 people we've served since we started,
Wow.
right? And so we want to be able to keep doing that because we know it works.
Yeah.
And so yeah, let's do this together. Let's go do some kayak fishing. If I can do
Heck
it, anybody
yeah.
can do it.
You're like, I've done it.
Yeah, it's easy.
That is awesome. I love everything about this. I think it's great. And and I was saying before we met on the podcast, I was telling you that I through social media that I was on, all of a sudden I hear like, hey, what are some nonprofits that people should know about in the local area? And that's down here in the greater San Antonio. And then they put Heroes on the Water. And I was like, why does that sound familiar? I think I'm interviewing them. And then here you have 58 chapters, and I mean, Texas hosts a bunch of them. There's 3 just in our area when you were telling me, and I'm like, oh my God. So it's robust. Seems like it's very easy and accessible. Do they need to show anything? Like they just DD 214
Mm-mm,
thing? They just need to
we
say,
don't do that. We serve all groups of all ages. So, and
just
again,
come
not a
on out.
criticism. Yeah, like I know there's VSOs. It's post 9/11. Totally understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're a Vietnam vet, come on out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that too. I had somebody say that to me that I partnered up with. They're like, so what do you do for, identification? And I'm like, I talk to them. And they're like, what?
Right.
I'm like, I know there are people out there that, stolen valor. I get all that. But I like in some cases you have to have that identity. I'm not going to knock it, and I'm not knocking other nonprofits for doing that. But in certain models like this, you know, you know, come on out,
Yeah.
enjoy it. And
Hmm.
there you go. Well, I
Yeah.
think this is awesome. All right.
Cool.
Well, let's wrap this up. And, I'm going to say this to the audience. I've said it, I've probably said it like every 5th podcast that we talk about trauma or something like that. You are not responsible for your trauma. You're not, but you are responsible for your healing. And when you're healing, you're just going to be better, not only for yourself, which is priority number 1, but you're going to be much better for all those around you and those that you impact. And I know we'd all love to think that we just work in a bubble. I've had people say, oh, I don't bother anybody. I don't let anybody in my world. And I'm just going to call BS on that. We impact people. That's how we're built, humans, and we are built to engage. So get out there, try different things. Not everything's for everybody. I mean, if you don't like slimy fish, this may not be for you. But if you like the water, maybe you just want to go out with somebody and throw the reel out and let them get the fish. explore is the point, is try different things. And if you guys are like, oh, I can't remember the name, reach out to us. We'll get you in contact. We have all their contact info and we stay connected. So on that note, from all of us here at Beyond the Frontline and our parent podcast, Coming Home Well, we greatly, greatly appreciate you guys. And if you got value out of this, write a comment. We love reviews. It does help us. It's not for our ego. Trust me. It's what helps push this crazy thing they call the algorithm, which I don't ever understand. But I know that the more engagement we have, the more people are going to hear this. So share, make comments. If you don't like it, you can let us know that too. We're fine. If there's something you want to hear, let us know. We'll find them. So on that note, we hope you guys have an awesome week.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Frontline, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well.